I won a Primetime Emmy for Secrets of the Whales for Disney Plus and National Geographic. And I won a Daytime Emmy for Penguin Town on Netflix about the jackass penguins in South Africa. So often we're told that success equates wealth, and success should equate.
You obviously come into challenges just like everyone else. You come into these obstacles. How do you deal with that?
With television, and I think anything, I grew up as an artist. I went to art school. I think that problems and challenges are just part of the process. And as long as you view it in a way that when you hit an obstacle, you don't say stop. You don't just end and go, I don't know what to do, is that there's always another avenue. There's always another solution that you can find. And particularly in my area of wildlife filmmaking, animals don't show up when you expect animals to show up. They're very difficult, and you can't predict exactly what you hope to happen. Sometimes it's great and something miraculous happens, and sometimes you just got to make do with what you have. So it's good to have multiple plans, multiple, like we joke that it's plan A through like double Z. You just have to constantly think of a way to solve the problem. And I stress this with all the people that I work with is if you hit an obstacle, look for help, but also always think about what the solution could be, because there's always going to be a solution, always. And that really helps. I think my career and kind of life of looking at things of, there's always going to be something, some way we can solve this problem.
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to like planning, then do you set out with a plan, but then you often do you find you run into problems and the plan has to keep changing?
Oh, absolutely. I have an initial outline plan of what I hope will happen, what would be the best case scenario. Um, but in every issue, every step in the back of my mind, I'm thinking this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. And I always am thinking of that of, well, if I have to pivot, how do I pivot here? And how is that going to impact the rest of the journey? So very rarely am I going from A to B. There's always, it's going to be winding and back and forth in different avenues, but I still need to get to the finish line. I still need to get to the end. And so in my planning, I'm always trying to think of ways that what could go wrong. I don't plan for everything that goes wrong, but I also don't plan for everything work perfectly either.
Yeah, because I think that's a stumbling block for a lot of people because they'll make a plan and they kind of want to stick to it. But I think you have got to be open-minded, haven't you? And when you like be willing to adapt your plan and it's kind
Oh,
you've kind of got to admit to yourself that you don't have all the answers. So that's kind of like, some people struggle with that.
I think a lot of people struggle with it. And I think one mindset that you have to have is you have to be willing to fail. You're going to fail. Um, and I'm one of those interesting people who I went to art school, but I also played sports all the time when I was a little kid. And one great thing about sports, and I'm incredibly competitive, is that I hate losing, but you do lose. You learn how to lose. You can't win all the time. And when you set a plan together, I think it's understanding that you may not succeed. And if you don't succeed, for the most part, it's not the end of the world. You find a way to pick yourself up, you find a way to move on. And sometimes I've had failures that, I joke it's like the movie from the movie Serenity. It's a good death. It's okay. I'm willing to kind of, this failed so badly, it's completely on me, but there's honor in this death. It's okay. And once you embrace that, once you recognize that, I think it allows you to be a lot more freeing and challenge yourself to push the boundaries, to push what you're capable of if you're okay knowing you're going to skin a knee occasionally.
Yeah, yeah. Because I suppose with every failure that you have, I'm thinking of the Thomas Edison quote now, and he says like for every failure he had, he was actually pleased with that because he'd found another way that didn't work, so therefore he must be getting closer to what does work. Again, there's so much to that because you can like understand that, but then to emotionally understand it and actually apply it is not easy, right?
Oh, exactly. It still hurts, but it hurts just a little bit less. And I think that, you know, if you learn from it and you grow, and the next time you'll get better, and the next time you'll try, and the next time you'll try. And I used to talk to my teams and the people I work with. We would come up with pitches to bring to networks, to bring to Netflix or Disney or whomever. And our success rate, in show development, if you get 2 out of 10 up, you're hugely successful. You are just the Mark Gaddis of the world. You are just phenomenally successful, right? So you just got to get used to failing, that you're failing all the time. But the closer you're getting on that target, the closer you're getting towards the bullseye, you're going to hit the bullseye. You're
Mhm.
going to get there at some point. So you learn from every single time that you fail. So, like Edison and other great inventors and creators.
Yeah. And would you say your sports background has really contributed to your mindset?
Oh, absolutely. I am a big believer in I think all kids should play sports. All kids should learn how to win. All kids should learn how to lose. Particularly learn how to lose. It's a skill that you um, I think we don't stress how to accept failure and move on and learn from failure. And I think sports has that, even if you're the most passionate sports fan. Um, if you live or die on every single game, you're just going to give yourself a heart attack after a while. So you have to learn how to pace yourself. I'm a baseball fan. Baseball has 162 games in the regular season. You can't beat yourself up with every loss. And so I think that it helps you not just as a fan, but as a player or someone who participates to know how to continue to improve and plan, strategize, and keep growing. I think it's really important.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point that you say. Yeah, it does kind of teach you how to deal with that failure or that loss, doesn't it? Because there's the next game to improve. And yeah, I know a lot of my mindset is really down to the fact from my like football coaches, which you were called soccer,
Mhm.
um, because they would always say, no matter how good I was as a player, they would always say, well, you can do a little bit better, and I think I just taken that into my adult sort of life, and I owe all of that to sport. So, as you say, I believe as well that most children should get involved in this. Do you feel now a lot of the sports, especially with children, they don't want this competitive aspect, no one wins, no one loses type thing? Is that the same where you are? That's very much over here in the UK.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of it. And I think there's also you have some things where nobody's a winner, nobody's a loser, and then you have some things where everybody expects their child to suddenly be like they're going to be the um, the next Mo Salah or the next um, Lionel Messi. And those are unique people. Those are just really, really special. And I had the great privilege of coaching a 11 to 13-year-old girls softball team. And none of these girls were going to go to college on a scholarship. None of these girls are going to be an all-star. And sometimes their parents would get a little rowdy. I'm like, they're learning collaboration, they're learning teamwork, they're learning fairness, they're learning how to hustle and how to put in your all and how to grow from it. So there's a lot of really good life lessons that I think apply to your future adult life. And so I think that there needs to be a balance between not like everybody's a winner or everybody's a loser, and like my child's going to be Roger Federer or something. I think that need to find that kind of balance because, our life, we have a really long life, really long, most of us who are fortunate to have a long life. And you're going to be defined by so many different things. And if you can grow and continue to learn and expand what you are, I love the work that I do because I get to learn things, new things all the time. And it's such a privilege. It's such a great thing. I think that's a great part about life. Yeah.
Yeah, the learning aspect. And as you were talking there, I was thinking of the book, The Science of Getting Rich. I don't know if you read that book, but
Yeah.
he talks in there about trying to move from the competitive aspect to the creative aspect.
Mhm.
Because if you're competing with everyone all the time, at some point you have to lose no matter how much you win. But if you're creative, then you're kind of making your own rules up in your own market. Would you say that's a little bit like the work that you're doing because you have to create, like you say, especially when you're working with animals, you've got to create stories out of whatever you're doing, right? You've got to
Yeah,
really think on your feet.
Yeah, I'm constantly trying to think of different ways to tell a story. And even, even in the world that I'm in, wildlife filmmaking, I look at other genres. I'll look at sci-fi, I'll look at true crime, I'll look at comedy of different ways to tell the story and be open to different ways of doing it. And I think that what really hit me about the statement you said about competition versus being creative is I can't think of a single person who's not successful who hasn't done it collectively as a team. There's got to be people with you to work with you and help you. And to really achieve your goals, you have to be part of a group and recognize that. And in the work that I do, I rely and work with so many incredibly talented people who we buoy each other up and we support each other and everybody succeeds because I think that there is this misperception that life is pie and there's only a certain amount of slices of pie that are available. There's no pie. There's plenty of plenty of life to share around so everybody can succeed. So, a friend said I should get a t-shirt or a bumper sticker that said there is no pie and just kind of put that out there because if you're in competition with everybody all the time, then you're just by yourself and that's no way to live.
Yeah. So the collaboration is a big thing. And these people that you work with, are you often leading these people?
I'm often in the executive role, so I function in three different capacities. I'm an executive producer who's usually at the top, who kind of looks over everything at 10,000 feet and make sure everybody's kind of working towards that same goal. I also series produce, and so even on a more micro level, work with teams. And then I'm a development executive, and development executives come up with ideas, shape the ideas, and then bring in the team to kind of execute that idea. The one thing that I'm not is I'm not a cinematographer. I don't have the patience nor the back to go sit out in the wild for 3 weeks straight and film bears. I used to be an editor, but uh, truthfully, my rage monster comes out of technology, so I move more into a leadership role or more into a producing role. So there's a whole team around me, and each individual skill goes together to kind of make the magic that you see. So it's great. Like if you look at Our Planet Blue Planet or Planet Earth on BBC, you have great cinematographers, you have great editors who put it together, you have writers who write the narration and music to go beyond it. It's all collectively to make that piece of art.
Great. And how do you get the best out of people?
I'm a big believer in mentorship and buoying each other up to make sure that everybody can succeed to their best possible, you know, potential. And I think that gets back to my sports days is the coaches that I responded most to were the ones who they weren't the yellers, they weren't the ones who berated me, they were demand or yelled. They were the ones who encouraged me to find what I was good at and what I could succeed at. And also, part of that is there's no harsher judge, coach, leader than myself. And I feel that a lot of creative people are that way, that we're our own kind of drill sergeants, own people pushing us. So I feel much more as a mentor and a leader to kind of shepherd them in a way that allows them to succeed and everybody can do the best work possible with freedom and with creativity and openness. And for the most part, it works. If someone's not pulling their weight or is not able to do it, then of course, you've got to think of the whole team and the whole project, and you make modifications. But I think that's the best way to support the people around you.
Yeah, because leadership in itself is quite a creative role, really, isn't it? Especially with the communication that you have to communicate with team members and get that across that you believe in them, you want them to do well, and I suppose create some sort of common goal to aim for, right?
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong because I'm over here in the US, but I've never heard a negative word spoken about Jurgen Klopp. I've heard that was just an amazing motivator who allowed everybody on his team to reach their full potential. And I think that's how you do bring success out. And I think that's really a huge part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned Jurgen Klopp. I was just thinking of Pep Guardiola, the
Yeah.
Manchester City manager. There's a thing on Netflix. I forget what it's called now, but I've been watching that, and obviously it doesn't show you everything. But when he's communicating with the players, one thing I notice, he doesn't talk so much about football. It's more about them and the feeling and
Mhm.
the community sort of spirit and how we can't let people down. And it's less about the actual technical side of what he wants them to do. He just wants them to literally bring everything they've got to the surface, and that's enough. Is that kind of a good leadership strategy that you kind
I
of?
mean, that's exactly what I look towards. That's exactly the kind of example, because I think you brought it up earlier, is that, when you played sports, when you played football, it was working with coaches who said, let's push you just a little bit further. Let's just push you a little bit further. It was not that you need necessarily like exact training on doing this or, A to B, but it was more of giving you the motivation, the confidence to try to go for that. And I think that, again, what I know about Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp and to bring up those guys, that's what they do for their players. They're willing to kind of give it that extra effort to know that I can do a little bit more, and also that collectively, if we all do this together, we're going to succeed. And they don't lose faith that winning is always possible. And I think when I work with my teams, I want my team members, my colleagues to feel the same way. Look, we're all in this process. We're all going to try to meet this goal and make this incredible project. And sometimes it'll work and sometimes it'll be fine because, sometimes it just doesn't happen, but it's okay. We gave it our best.
Yeah, yeah. So it's more about the belief and the faith rather than the micromanaging sometimes, isn't it? Especially if you've got the right people. Obviously, you need the right people in there first, but yeah, yeah, that
Yeah, the
sounds good.
micromanagement. Sorry, I mean micromanagement. I had someone ask me, you know, how do you manage people in their day-to-day time? And I'm like, I'm hiring people to do a job. I'm not hiring people to come punch in the clock.
Mm,
This is the task I need you to do. If you get that done in 4 hours, go. That's fine. I don't care. It's more of, I think, seeing this as a project base, not just minutes clocked in. And that, I think, recognizes people's own, their own what's the word I'm trying to think of? Their own value, how they're valued, their own worth. Not that they're just a machine and you turn it on and you turn it off. It's that this is what they're bringing to the table.
yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, results orientated. This is what we want. Show us what you can do, kind of thing. Again, it puts them in that creative mindset, doesn't it? Keeps coming
Absolutely.
back to this. So you mentioned as well that you're your own motivator and your own critic. How do you deal with that? Because I know that's not easy sometimes.
Well, I handle it on good weeks. I handle it about 70 to 80% of the time, and bad weeks, maybe it's a little bit around more like 50. I think that I keep my head down. I keep focused. I continue to learn. If I'm feeling uneasy about something, I'll go back and recheck and look at things and re-examine it. But I'm also really fortunate that I have amongst my people, my friends and whatnot, I have some cheerleaders who boost me up. People who are in similar jobs or in the industry or not even in the industry, but who can get an understanding of what I do. And sometimes it's good to just have somebody remind you, no, you're good at this. It's okay. It's okay to pick you up. And I do the same thing for people. I have listed on my website, I'm a producer, I'm a development, I'm a creative consultant, and I'm an emotional support auntie too. Like I'm here to help people boost you up. And that's how I use my dear friend Stephanie and Judy. They help me remind me when I'm not feeling as confident as I need to be, they're there for me and vice versa.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because it's quite a lonely place if you are the leader at times, isn't it? Because you've got to kind of put this persona on at times, just to show the strength and the leadership, right? But of course, we're all human as well, so
Mhm.
it's great
I
that you've
think,
got people around you to help you with that.
yeah, I used to joke with, I'm going to use a golf analogy here. Like I mentioned, I played a lot of sports as a kid. Is there's producer and supervisor producer and executive producer, and this is similar to other other careers. But, anybody can hit off the driving range. That's super easy. Just stand there, hit a ball, hit a ball, hit a ball. But the pros, the people who are the best in the world, the Scotty Schefflers, the Jason Day, the Tiger Woods, etc., those are the guys who, landed in the trap and still are able to make a birdie. They're the ones who get in the worst situations and still are able to find solutions. And that's part of what it is when you become a leader, is you face more and more problems and you have to come up with solutions. And like you said, it can be very lonely. And also it can be a lot of weight because it's expected that you should also take responsibility for that. And that's why it's good to have people support you, because if you hit into the rough or go off on the other fairway, it's on you. You've got to figure out. You can't say, no, that was my caddy's fault. No, it's you.
Mm.
So I think that's a way to kind of think about it of, it's good to have people remind you, it's okay, settle down, get out of this hole. You can make this work.
And do you get those thoughts sometimes, imposter syndrome? Because all that weight can come down when you go, they're expecting me to figure this out. I don't know how to figure it out. Do you get that as well? And then,
Oh,
of course, you eventually always figure it out, but do you
I
get
I'd
those
be wor
moments?
I'd be yeah, I'd be worried about a creative person who doesn't have imposter syndrome. I think that I heard someone say there's this wonderful book called Likeable Badass called by Alison Fragall, and she says that imposter syndrome is your inner kind of voice pushing you to say you can do more. It's encouraging you to do more. And it's the twist, the tone is just more like, oh, you're not good enough in this, but it wants you to kind of continue to push yourself. So once you hear that voice saying, nah, this isn't really, you can't do this, you're a fake, just remind yourself that it's just something inside of you saying, yeah, you can do more, you can push further. So yeah, no, I suffer from imposter syndrome all the time and downplay and do things, but then I sit back and remind myself, no, no, it's okay. I can do this. I can handle this.
Yeah, so you just need to sort of self-regulate. Yeah. And do you self-reflect as well sometimes on the progress you have made? Because I know a lot of successful people kind of always chasing the goal, and then they don't give themselves the credit for the work they have done and the progress they have made.
I would say the latter. I sometimes completely forget where I've kind of come from. I do think I feel like a lot of times I'm living in the moment and living just, oh, I'm doing this, I do this. And then I think back to it and go, oh, wait, no, I did do that. Oh, wait, I did experience that. Um, and I think that a lot of that is not motivated by a lack of awareness. I think that as a creative person, I'm always looking for the next challenge. I'm always focused on the next challenge. And when you're always looking forward, sometimes you just forget to look back. And there's a wonderful biography about the film director Mike Nichols, and they talk about here was a man who had incredible success in his 20s and 30s, some of the best movies that were ever made, and he continued to direct and continued to produce in his 70s and 80s because he still had to create, he still had to do things, he still wanted to make films and do plays. And I think that I'm not saying I'm Mike Nichols, but I think that's part of not looking back. I think you're still always looking for a challenge in the next thing you can produce or the next thing you can make.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I was just thinking about the imposter syndrome where you said like, it's kind of telling you it's kind of data, isn't it? They're saying this is the thing you've got to do. But,
Hmm.
a lot of us will get that imposter syndrome and turn away from it. Um,
Yeah, I heard someone also say that the people who don't have imposter syndromes are imposters.
again,
Because they're not necessarily self-aware
yeah,
of the fact that no, you really shouldn't be here. So I think I like turning it on its head and saying, look, it's not a negative thing. It's actually your internal voice. I like what Alison Fergali said, is that it's telling you, you know what, you can, it's just saying, let's go, let's keep doing more, let's keep doing more, let's keep pushing forward.
yeah. Because I think a lot of people who get involved in personal growth, they get an idea that maybe they're going to reach a point where they don't have imposter syndrome anymore, but we're always going to have it, right? It's just we got to change our relationship with it, is what I'm thinking. Would you agree with
Oh,
it?
no, I completely agree. Again, I think that really touched me when I read that Mike Nichols biography as here is a person who, you can't be any more successful as an artist than Mike Nichols. And The Graduate and Angels in America and all these things. and he still was never satisfied. And it wasn't because he didn't feel like he was good enough. It was more that he just still had that drive to create. And I think and when you look at it that way, it's like, oh no, that's a great way to be.
Mm. It's almost a life force, isn't it? It's like inside of us, an expression, isn't it? Like an expression to create, to bring more of us to the surface. And if you're in the habit of doing it, I suppose you're just in the habit of doing it, and that's not going to stop, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I was listening to one of your previous episodes where the person talked about that kind of stress habit. And you go on vacation, and that stress habit doesn't stop. And it clicked to me that I know for me, every 3 to 4 months, I need to go take a break because it's like my brain gets overwhelmed and I'm no longer creative and everything just becomes just a weight. And I need to go take a break, and it's almost like I dump everything out of my head and it's a complete recharge. And when I know that I'm ready to come back, is all of a sudden I'll be like, you know, that'd be a really good film, or that'd be a really good doc, or that I'd start create my brain starts charging again. So yeah, I think it's the way my brain works and the way that drives me through life. And my father always wanted me to be a lawyer, and thank God I didn't become a lawyer. I'm so thankful what I do now. Yeah.
And that, what you just said there about when you are like on vacation, I know I get this. You know, you're working really hard and you just can't get whatever it is you're trying to figure out. But when you'll be on vacation or whatever, and bang, a genius idea comes to you, was no effort whatsoever. It kind of goes against a lot of the things that certainly what I was raised to believe. Were you raised to believe that you had to work really hard to be successful?
Yes, I was raised that you had to put your head down and work. And I got my first job when I was 15, and while going to school, and I think I took my first extended break 2 years ago. It was the first time I had a break since I was 15 years old. So it was always, you work really hard and then it will pay off. But I think I learned gradually, as you get older, with age comes wisdom, is that pays off to what? What is going to make you happy?
Mm.
What's going to feed your soul? And for me, it's travel, it's being creative. I don't need to live in a mansion or an estate. I drive a very simple Kia. It's I'm very happy with my Kia. I love it. Yeah, my Kia car.
I
I
want a
think that
Kia. I want one of those.
yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's a great car.
I want a Kia Niro.
Yeah, so I think that that's part of it. It's what I think that so often we're told that success equates wealth or status,
Hmm.
and success should equate what makes you happy, and you still live responsibly. And I say that responsibly. I talk to my nephews and say, I don't care what job you get. You can work in a coffee shop, you can work wherever you want to work, as long as you live responsibly. You pay your rent, you pay your utilities, you don't, do that. Just be responsible. And I think that's a better way, because I don't think that's a bad lesson, because I don't think there's ever going to be a shortage of people who are going to be driven by wealth and driven by status. That's great. That's them, but for people who are more creative, I think, like you say, living a purposeful life, I think that's a way to really embrace and be your best self.
Yeah, because what I always say is success is personal, right?
Mhm.
It's different for every person. And yeah, we've all heard of loads of famous people or rich and what we say successful people, but they feel like failures because their marriage breaks up or their whatever, you know. But yeah, this idea of success is kind of rammed down our throats a little bit on our Instagram feed. It could be Gucci handbags, all these material items, but actually, success is very personal. And would you say it's important to define what success means to you? So, like, you know what that payoff is?
I think it's really important to identify what's going to make you at peace. What's going to make you feel comfortable in your own skin and in everything you do. And I say this as I've been working on an initiative. I started an initiative called Fully Unapologetic, and it's a place for plus size professional women to come and talk about the issues that we face in the workplace and life and et cetera. Because my entire life I've been heavy. I've always been heavy. I was heavy when I played sports. I'm heavy in my 20s, 30s, 40s, et cetera. And to that, some of the social stigma that goes behind it is like, then I'm not a success. Wait a minute. I'm not a success because I've been heavy. I've won 2 Emmys. I have great friends, loving husband, the whole deal, but I'm not a success because I'm not a size 4. Wait, I need to change what that definition of being a success is. And I think that's a part of it. I think it's a part of acknowledging the assets you have and the things that are wonderful about you and not letting things external pressures or societal pressures or things you've grown up with and been told hold you back from being your best self.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've got to define our own idea of it, haven't we? Because yeah, there's so many versions out there that I think a lot of people are confused by all the different versions. They'll see, their friends at a holiday destination, and then they go and book a holiday for that destination, and they're walking around there thinking, why am I not happy? You know,
Mhm.
and it's
Yeah.
because it wasn't their idea, was it? And yeah, like you say, they go on all these diets because maybe they've seen other people do it, but then they don't feel happy within themselves because they haven't
No,
defined the success.
no, and especially if it's something that really is not obtainable. I laugh that, again, this is the way I've been, my whole life. I've gone through every diet imaginable. I've fluctuated immensely, and it suddenly hit me of I got to a point where it's exhausting to keep trying, exhausting of trying to live up to the standard. I realized that I was trying to say the same thing of like, I'm 5'6", like I really want to be 5'10". It's like, it's not gonna happen. Why am I torturing myself over something I'm never going to be a size 4. It's never gonna happen. So why am I trying to say means I'm gonna be successful if I reach that unobtainable goal, you
Mm.
know? So now I just tell myself, no, you're 5'6". You're never gonna be 5'10". It's totally fine.
Yeah, yeah. And like you say about like before, when you're running into the issues and you find another way to do it, it's kind of like that, It's kind of making peace again with who you are, and again, just defining that level of success
Mhm.
is what I think is really important.
And it's so freeing. It's so freeing. And again, it's not going to be perfection. Some days it'll be 80-20. Some days it's going to be 50-50 or even less. It's just trying to get to a better average where you're less, 30-70, more 70-30. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way you use the word freeing there because we're the only ones who can free ourselves. Often we think it's these external things, but usually emotionally it's only ourselves and our own. All we've got to do is change our thinking,
Mhm.
really.
Yeah. And, you mentioned about seeing people when they're on vacation. Why don't I feel this way? And yet I would bet that almost everybody knows somebody who just lives a very happy life, whether they're just gardening or they go hiking or do whatever, and they're the happiest person you've met. And it's because they're just content with who they are.
Yeah, with who they
Yeah.
are. It's so simple, yeah, because we have so much here already, don't we? Without the material items, because we do live in this world that stimulates fear and desire to make a profit, and we're surrounded by it even more so than ever because
Hmm.
it is absolutely everywhere,
Hmm.
all over the internet, TV,
Hmm.
radio. It's all to get us to call us to action
Exactly. There's a motivation behind it.
and make a purchase.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Yeah.
Um, where can we find you online?
Oh, sure. My company is Padlin Creative, Padlin Creative. My website's padlincreative.com. I also give webinars and different public speeches if you're here in the United States, and occasionally am thrilled to be a part of podcasts like this. Yeah,
Brilliant. It's been great to have you. We'll make sure that all of your links are in the description. Thanks a lot.
great. Thanks.